This guy has filled theaters, shaped public discourse, and made poetry a mainstream cultural experience in Nigeria. He's used the stage to challenge division, interrogate history, and spark national consciousness, achievements that earned him a spot among the top 100 most influential Africans and the ANA Prize for Prose Fiction for his novel, Uri Chindere. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Dike Chukwumerije.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dike Chukwumerije. I am a poet, and I want to tell you a story about our country, Nigeria. Nigeria was named by a woman, not a side chick, not a mistress, not a housewife, without any knowledge of politics, economics, or history, no knowledge beyond baking, cooking, sewing, no. Nigeria was named by a woman, a 45-year-old woman, single, had never been married, focused on her career, writing on a topic on which she was considered to be an expert, writing in a newspaper that was widely respected. Nigeria was named by a woman. A woman at whose funeral received the highest compliments a woman could hope to receive in a Victorian society, a patriarchal society, a deeply, deeply chauvinistic society, a woman of whom her male colleagues said in her obituary, she thought like a man. We were named by that woman. And yet, to this day, we still say, in the debates we have in beer parlors as men, in the conversations we conduct on social media as youths, to this day, we still say, after all, Nigeria was named by Lord Lugard's girlfriend. This is an example of how women are routinely reduced in history to mere appendages of powerful men. But for the issue I have come here to talk about, this is an example of one of those maliciously designed narratives that continue to drive how we see ourselves and our country. Because in 1897, when Flora Shaw suggested the name Nigeria, she was writing as the colonial editor of the London Times. She was writing as the most senior female journalist in the United Kingdom. She was writing as the first woman to hold an editorial position in a major newspaper anywhere in the world. She was writing 2 years before her retirement at the pinnacle of her career. She was writing 5 years before her marriage at age 50 to Frederick Lugard, a man whose first encounter with her was to come to her office to thank her for the brilliant review she had penned on a book he had written on British colonial policy in East Africa. That was the woman that suggested the name Nigeria. And she did not invent that name. You see, the word Niger is an old word. Let me shock you. Niger is older than Erie. The word Niger is older than Oduduwa. It is older than Bayajida. The ancient Egyptians knew of this river and called it by a name remarkably similar to the modern word Niger. The ancient Greeks knew of this river and called it by a name remarkably similar to the word Niger. The Romans knew of it. Leo Africanus, writing in the 15th century, called it the Niger. This river has long excited the imagination of thinkers and travelers and adventurers around the world. And in almost every language in which the river Niger has a name, to the Mandinka of Mali, it is the Joliba. To the Songhai, it is Isa. To the Zama, it is Isa Beri. To the Hausa, it is Kwara. To the Yoruba, it is Oya. To the Igbo, Oshimiri. To the Ijaw, Torubeni. In almost every language in which the river Niger has a name, that name means great river. That is the meaning of Niger. Greatness. Because all over the world, great rivers give birth to great civilizations. From the ancient Egypt of River Nile, to the Chinese civilization of the Yangtze River, to the Roman Empire of the River Tiber, to the Islamic civilization that grew up around the Euphrates and Tigris, to Great Britain of the Thames, to America of the Mississippi, all around the world, great rivers give birth to great nations. Because, as Fela once eloquently said, water, you don't get any me. You see, where there is water, there is gathering, there is settling, there is fishing, there is farming, there is singing, there is dancing, there is welcome. That is why this Niger area has always been so open and welcoming. Bayajida arrived as a foreigner. He met people here, was accepted and integrated. Oduduwa arrived as a foreigner. He met people here, was accepted and integrated. Eri arrived as a foreigner, met people here, was accepted and integrated. It is an irony that modern Nigerians are less open and accepting than their ancestors were. It is an irony that modern Nigerians act in ways that are inconsistent with the spirit of this land, because Jaja began his life as an Igbo man and ended it as a Niger Deltan. A fluidity in identity not possible in modern Nigeria, that Jaja began his life as an Igbo man and ended it as a Niger Deltan, because historically, geographically, the Niger area is open country. There are virtually no natural barriers between the Cameroonian mountains and the Senegal River, between the Atlantic Ocean and the Sahara Desert. Where you find walls and borders and boundaries in this region, they were designed and constructed by the bias and bigotry of men. If modern Nigerians see themselves as completely different, it is not because this is rooted in any geographical reality. It is because of maliciously designed narratives there to drive and institutionalize a culture of difference. And where did this inflexible attitude towards identity come from? This idea of the tribe as parallel groups with independent origins and impermeable walls. This tendency to reduce free-ranging Africans to compact and incompatible ethnic groups. This division of the world into two socio-political realities, a European one, where migration and nation building is a natural historical process, and an African one, where everybody is locked into eternal tribes. Where did this inflexible attitude towards identity come from? I'll tell you. It came from the textbook of a colonial educator who sat down and said that the people of Obola Afo are one with the people of Nsukka to their right, but completely different from the people of Orokam to their left. It came from the textbook of a colonial educator who sat and saw the movement from Oba to Obi to Obong and said, this is not a cultural continuum. These are different peoples, languages, and groups. It came from the textbook of a colonial educator who looked to the south and said, you are pagan, go to school. And looked to the north and said, you are Muslim, stay at home. It came from the textbook of a colonial educator who studied us intensely with one intention alone, to find the perfect way to divide and rule. For in truth, if Borno had stood with Sokoto, if Kano had stood with Lokoja, if Ibadan had stood with Lagos, if Calabar had stood with Ekumeku, we would not have been conquered and colonized in the first place. Our division is our weakness. It is the unlatched back door through which the colonial interloper walked in. It is the half-open window through which Boko Haram broke in, because when it was developing in Maiduguri, Abia said, it is not my business. Because when kidnapping was developing in Port Harcourt, Katsina said, it is not my business. Because when the farmer header crisis was developing in Sokoto, Benue said, it is not my business. But historically, geographically, this is open country. There are no real natural barriers between the Chapalwadi Mountain to the east and the Opara River to the west, between the Lagos Lagoon to the south and Lake Chad to the north. When a crisis starts in one part, it is just a question of time before it walks, before it travels, before it migrates to the other part. Our division is our weakness. And so I ask you today, modern champions of culture, identity, and language, I ask you today, what is the language of a baby's first cry? Tell me. When children mourn the premeditated death of their father, in what dialect are their tears? Tell me. What is the religion of laughter? What is the ethnicity of love? What mother, upon hearing that the daughter she dressed and sent to school this morning has been abducted and violently carried into the bush, what mother, upon receiving this news, does not shout, "Why? What ear, on hearing this shrill cry of distress, does not immediately understand where it is coming from? What father, upon receiving the corpse of his son and having to wash it and bath it and prepare it for burial, does not at some point turn around and say, no"? Because we are first human, before we are tribe, before we are tongue, we are first human. And if you say otherwise, it is only because you have something personally to gain from fostering division. If you believe otherwise, it is only because you have been indoctrinated by somebody that had something to gain from fostering division. For in truth, contrary to public opinion, Nigeria is a natural country. The River Niger and the River Benue, like needle and thread in the hands of God, stitch it together, connecting its geographical basins into one natural unit. Nigeria is a natural country. And if us, the indigents of this Niger area, the sons and daughters of this soil, the children of this ecosystem do not realize this and accept this and leverage on this to build a nation worthy of this environment, then one day in our future, as has already happened several times in our past, one day a stranger, a foreigner will arrive, push us aside, and build the great country that this geography demands. This is not a threat. This is the truth. For when all is said and done, the size and stability of a country does not depend on sentiment or blood relations. When all is said and done, the size and stability of a country depends on geography and the existence of a leadership with the vision and competence to leverage on that geography. I tell you, whether you think we are one or you think we are different depends on who you are listening to. Thank you.